Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of the Future of Email Marketing. My guest today, and I'm speaking to her from Chicago, I believe, is Xiao Faria de Cunha, owner of Westerlund. Westerlund is an agency fundamentally, Xiao?
Yes, it is.
Tell us a bit about the company first.
Here's the fun, nerdy fact. The name Westerlund came from the brightest young star cluster in the universe. We work with companies that are still relatively young when it comes to digital marketing.
Mhm.
And I love that Superstar movie. You probably know about it, and Dancing Girl. So that's where I got the name of the company because I believe every business is a bright superstar, and you just need the right person and the right strategy to bring that light out of it.
To bring that light out of it, nicely put. How long's the company been in business? And you launched it yourself, correct?
Yes. So I've been in the marketing and PR world for almost 10 years, but
Right.
I didn't take the entrepreneurship leap until 2 years ago. So this is our second year in. We're going strong and super excited to see what's about to come.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you end up in marketing? Was this an I'm always heading there, or I got pulled into it?
Yeah, so I came from China. So when I started with traditional media buying and print media. And
Okay.
I came over here for school. When I came here, China was still like 10 years back in technology. So I
Yeah.
came here, I saw a huge change from in-person events, offline print, billboard signs, advertisements to, oh, wow, there's this digital stuff going on. And it's a lot more versatile. It's super fun. It's a much younger population. So you get people who are way more opener to creative ideas and just trying out new things. And all those things as an artist, that's straight up my sleeve, being creative, trying out new plans and stirring things up. That's
Yeah.
why I was drawn to the digital side. And I've been in digital marketing ever since.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And bringing a international perspective to
Mhm.
your work, obviously, which is a real asset. Um,
That is funny you brought up because we do offer marketing localization, which is
yeah.
partial translation services. And
Yeah.
we are snobs, so when it goes down to a translation conversation, sometimes we make fun of certain campaigns done by other companies, and we're like, "Who did the translation? That is hilarious."
Okay. Interesting. Well, that's got to be one of the harder tasks still is to get to get the nuance.
Yeah,
It's hard enough to get something to be expressive and on point and to move people, even if you both have the same native tongue. So to do it in
exactly.
more than one language, wow, it's a big lift.
Yep.
That's a big lift. Tell people a bit about your philosophy. Like, how do you approach making a customer, a company, into a star?
I am a huge storyteller. So I came from a writer's background. When I was back in China, I was a full-time creative writer.
Okay.
And when I came here, a lot of things changed, but I still have that writer, storyteller's personality inside of me.
Hmm.
I always say, a lot of people approach a company, a business, and when we talk about marketing, we say, oh, you need to put out a business profile, you need to have this front. It is mentally impossible to maintain a front that is not you. So when I talk to a business, the thing I care about is who I am speaking with, who that business actually is, what does the business care about. So I'd rather treat a business as an organic creature with its own thoughts, with its own story, and it's got a path it wants to take. And then I bring in the story from the business owner or whoever is going to be involved with creating that brand voice.
Got it. So this is a fun rabbit hole to go down. Let's go down it for a minute, and this may just be maybe my particular point of view. I find myself struggling sometimes as a business
Mhm.
owner with what feels like almost an imperative. Like you have to tell your story. You have to have a personal brand. And
Mhm.
at least in part, I'm like, I'm not the business. The business is not me. It's none of my,
Mhm.
it's none of my customers. It's not necessarily any of their concern who I am and
Mhm.
what I'm all about. And
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like I'm running counter to what's effective or counter to what's mainstream in marketing. Any reactions?
I actually agree with you. You are not your business. You are way more than your business, and as your business grow, it will become way more than just you as well.
Sure.
So I am. 100% against whoever tried to force a personal brand on every single person who has a business. I think it is ridiculous. Your business should speak as itself. So when you first start, it's just you running the business. Of course, it's gonna sound like you. Like my business content sounded like me talking for a long time until I brought in someone part-time to run the content.
Okay.
But I think the business personality should reflect what the team running the business believes when it comes to the professional center. Like, what do I think about the marketing industry? That is something my business will reflect, but only to a certain extent, because I have pretty radical opinions on certain things that my business do not stand for. Because as a business, we do play by the rules on certain things, and there are my business would argue against me. That's the funny thing, is it will argue against me on certain things. I might say one thing about marketing, but when I look from my business's perspective, I have to think about my audience, think about my clients, and I'm like, you know what? As a business, it's okay to go down that route, but personally, I don't really like
it. Sounds like we're actually somewhat on the same page there. It's refreshing to hear it. I just having lived through the transition to digital and the increased footprint we all have and exposure that we all have. I've gotten for myself. I've gotten more like I want to pick and choose, what's personally invested versus what the business needs to do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I saw a lot of that also from being an artist, because most creative small businesses, it's a sole proprietorship. The artist is the business, and I saw a lot of people try to keep what you were saying. You were told that, oh, you need that personal brand, you need to put yourself all out there, and all I saw were backfires, burnouts, and mental health concerns. And it's just, at that point, it's not worth it. Social media is not designed to do that to you. Nothing should do that to
you. Good for you. That's I like this strong point of view. Talk a bit about yourself, Xiao, as an artist. What forms, why, and how do you make it go?
So as far as art goes, I'm all about being the cultural ambassador. I can talk about mythology and Asian culture for hours and hours. That's what powers my art. Those are the core symbols I use. And based on those symbols, I use my traditional culture combined with what I've learned since I came to the States, which, what a trip. I use that and to touch on topics not necessarily marketing related, but my business and my art, they both focus a lot. You can probably tell by my LinkedIn, focus on mental health awareness. It does focus on authenticity and how to put yourself out there in the world, not in a self-exploitory way, but in a way that is influential, compassionate, and that will naturally build a community around you. Like in art, my stuff is pretty peculiar, so I know I have a very specific audience who will get hooked to it, and it might not resonate with others. And I see the same thing in art and in business. It's marketing or not, what we are saying is not going to resonate with everyone. But as far as art goes, for me, it's like the moment I get those little direct messages on my art Instagram, people say, "You made my day." Like I was having a really hard day. I saw your painting. I read your caption. It made me feel so much better. Like those are the little moments I live for. And I think that should be the same whether you're an artist or you're in marketing or in anything. It's like live for the small moments. Like I know my art is touching people. I always joke like I don't like kids. I like other people's kids. But personally, I don't think about kids. So I always tell others like my art is gonna be my legacy. The more people my art touch, the bigger my legacy is gonna be.
Wow. What artists, can you name some artists that you yourself like and get something out of?
Living artists, Nathan Spohr, a friend of mine and a brilliant digital artist. He's also actually head curator of Society 6. That's his commercial side. And yeah, I know a ton of living artists. Most of my influences come from Japan. So like now Tsukiji, that was a very big illustration artist who was probably the first person to go full out in pushing the Asian symbols, like illustration wise and backstory wise. She was one of the earliest pioneers to actually be like, I'm going to throw all these wild little ideas into one painting. and you decipher it and take
Yeah.
whatever you can take.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to be informed. She's got to be informed, and it sounds like that's somewhat in your bailiwick as well.
Hmm.
You've got you've got a vocabulary drawing from a specific culture and even specific visual
Yeah. Yeah.
symbol set that you're re-expressing.
And it's fascinating because, in marketing, we talk about, oh, you need to convey one idea to a crowd.
Mhm.
And when I'm working with foreign symbols in my art, I'm actually doing the same thing. Is because my audience, most of them don't speak Chinese. They don't
Right.
know anything about the stories I'm using.
Right.
But I start to notice when it was expressed in the visual form, they
Mhm.
actually understand what it is about, even though they might have zero idea of the mythology I was referring to.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So
Oh, yeah.
it translates somehow, regardless of whether or not, right,
Yeah,
whether or not there's a literal translation.
exactly.
Wow, wow. Yeah, and ideographic character set in the written language, correct?
Yes.
And
Uh,
is that symbol set part of your vocabulary as an artist?
I occasionally use it. Personally, I feel like the characters, the actual letters,
Yeah,
take the visual expression power away from it. Because when you see a letter, you try to figure out what it is about. When you
Yeah.
see a flower or a bird, you take it as a flower and bird and look at it for the larger picture.
right, right. Okay. Let's take this a slightly different direction because I'm intrigued as heck by the juxtaposition of the things that you do, and I do want to focus it specifically on email in this respect. My observation is that email lags as a visual medium compared to other channels, particularly other digital channels. Any reaction to
Yeah.
that?
I do agree because most of the time when we talk about email, we're still dealing with plain text.
Yeah.
But we also need to think about there are ways you can turn a video into a GIF with captions and everything and just
Sure.
plug it into the email.
Sure.
And there are plenty of fancy newsletters out there.
Yeah.
But I think it's I look at email a lot of times closer as longer text messages because most of us are reading emails on our phone nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, the audience is at a different mindset when they open an email compared to the audience browsing social media or looking at a YouTube ads. So when it comes to email, my question would be, does the visual element really matter that much? Or is it the way you write it? The same way you would be texting someone.
I'm going to disagree with you, or I'm going to ask you to support your contention that I'd agree that the habit and expectation of I open an email, I'm probably going to get mostly text is there. My question is why are we sending mostly text?
That is a really, really good question because we have graphic heavy emails. From a technological standpoint, they'll tell you adding too much graphic affects your email deliverability because of how that
which is horse manure, but keep going.
Exactly. It's not even true. I think
true.
It still goes back to a mindset thing. Like if I'm opening a marketing email that I know it's a marketing email, I'm expecting pretty images, cute colors and things like that. I open an email I received from someone I've bought before. You better be sending me a nice coupon in there. Otherwise, why am I opening it?
Right.
So it goes back to expectation. I'm in the B2B sector, and most of my clients are in the B2B sector. So we are still dealing with people who are down to the point, be like, why are you emailing? And when someone opens the email with the mindset of, okay, why am I getting this email?
Yep.
At least from my experience running client campaigns, running campaigns for myself, text emails work more efficiently. It has a higher open, higher click, higher response compared to the graphic emails. But I'm not saying text email as a gigantic essay.
Yeah,
some people do that.
But you just said something fundamentally illogical, and I'm gonna call it out because almost everybody says it. Text is more effective than visual is a dumb statement in this respect.
Yeah.
Which text and which visual?
Exactly.
You can't indict the category by the specific. It's like if you send a meaningless image, it's not going to do as much. If you send a meaningful or impactful image, it's going to do something different. So saying image better, image worse is like a meaningless statement to me.
No, it doesn't you just cannot say it. And you cannot
Yeah.
say that on any marketing pieces because,
Right.
like I would say, you got to think about what mindset your recipient is in. Are they opening the email because they actually just want to check for information?
Hmm.
Or are they expecting, would the visual in this case be helpful or become an obstacle of actually building that relationship with the
Right.
person you're emailing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be curious to know your reaction to this. My categorical observation about visuals in email is that they tend to be decorative,
Mm,
not necessarily meaningful in a
mhm.
I got most of my information from the visual
Yep.
sense. It tends to be sort of the supporting characters and the bit parts, not the star. The star tends to be the copy. And
Yeah.
the more complex the subject matter, the more likely you are to actually get it across with a
Mhm.
visual than with a long block of text that
Yeah,
may or may not be
I
read.
definitely agree with you on
Yeah?
that part. I think most people get distracted because how much people are like preaching, oh, you need a visual brand guide, you need to have the look and feel.
Yeah.
I agree it is important to be visually consistent and pleasing.
Hmm.
But when it comes to communication, you
Hmm.
need to understand if you're sending an email with visuals in it, that visual better have some functionality. It should be more than
Should
just
be.
decorated. You
Should be.
know,
Yeah.
an infographic is definitely more friendly than a 20-page white paper. I'm now going
Well,
to read it.
good,
If I
good example.
download it, I'm probably going to look at the pictures first. Let's just be honest.
Yes. Yes.
You know? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I agree with you on that
Yeah.
one.
There's an email newsletter that I pay to subscribe to. Oh, it's worth
Mm-hmm.
pointing that out. Ben Thompson's Stratechery, and he's a brilliant analyst, and he puts out a ton of very thoughtful and on point content. Much of it or most of it written, but he'll frequently
Mm-hmm.
take relatively simple tools. I think he uses the paper app on the iPad and
Mm-hmm.
and draws the visual of the concept he's trying to get across. And
Yeah.
it tends to really unlock what
Mm-hmm.
he's written. You look at it and go, "Oh, I get the concept. Now
Yep.
let me go reread that again so I
Mm-hmm.
really, get what he's saying about aggregators or whatever else." And
Yeah.
he's one of the few, to my mind, that take the
That is
time to say
that is the
visual.
good approach. As I pay for a newsletter as well.
Hmm.
I subscribe to Media Post.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when they send me those things, the reason I actually read it because they always have a graphic.
Hmm.
There's a graph, a bar chart, a pie chart, something
Yeah.
sums up the entire article, and it's right there when you click open the
Yeah.
email. And
Yeah.
otherwise, I don't think I have the endurance to actually read all those.
Nobody reads all of their email, right?
Exactly. But
Yeah,
that's how they got me. I'm like, okay, so this is the topic I actually need to read about. And here's
yeah,
the graphic. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're accustomed to such a high level of visual execution in
Mm-hmm.
other channels,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you open an
Yeah.
app, it better be pixel perfect. You open a
Yeah.
website, your standards are pretty high now
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
design, brand consistency, preferably meaningful or impactful visuals. Uh,
Yep.
Nobody's got a plain ugly website for long today because
No. No.
either they lose their credibility, and yet we send
Yeah.
out we send out
I mean,
fairly
it's
ugly.
not gonna last. It might work for the first 3 months. You just
Yeah,
needed a
yeah,
website.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. You touched on text. And
Mm.
I had Kenneth Burke from Text Request on as a guest on the podcast a while back. Great conversation.
Cool.
What's your perspective? And let's talk U.S. and then we'll broaden it to China as well, because I
Yeah.
know there's apps and media that
Mm-hmm.
play a different role. But in the U.S. or Western market, email,
Mm-hmm.
text. How do you see those two interacting? How are they different? How are they similar?
Text message, like if we're just talking text, it's definitely shorter, faster. Nobody enjoys opening a text message on your phone and your screen fills up.
Hmm.
Email, I think people are a little bit more tolerant for it, but it's still the same mindset. Like, get on point, tell them why you're reaching out, tell them why they're receiving this email, and what's the value they're gonna get out of it
Yep.
instead of what you're offering. It doesn't matter what you're offering, it's
Yeah.
all about them.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
Yeah.
all about them. Texting is it's such a high priority interrupt, technical term, like
Mm-hmm.
Even while we're sitting here talking, my phone went ping and I had a very hard time not glancing over to see what the message was.
I turn my phone off nowadays unless I know I have
Really?
to keep it up. Yeah, like my phone is off right now. Sorry for my boyfriend. Hopefully he doesn't text me. But yeah, no, I keep my phone off for that exact reason because text it's like cold calling all days. It's intrusive. They're gonna see it. There's gonna be a notification.
Yeah.
And you're disrupting their daily flow with that text message you send out. So for me, it's that I don't think I've ever used text to follow up or to market. I've only used text where it's like a client has been non-responsive on email. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna text you now.
So you've used text for person-to-person communication, but not necessarily as a one-to-many marketing channel?
No, personally, I'm not a big fan of text marketing. I think text marketing should come in when you are already at the client's retention stage. Because okay, for example, I used a third-party platform to do my PPP loan application this month.
Sure.
I am glad they had a text marketing system because they were able to update me with my application process. That is a good use of text.
And that was, I would argue, that's not as much marketing as
exactly
service process,
customer support.
Yeah,
it's a customer support automation. As far as text marketing goes, I see why it is being used. I get text notification from certain business organizations and part of remind me of events and stuff. I'm like, stop texting me. You could have sent me an email.
Yeah. And would you prefer the email?
I would have preferred the email instead of getting text messages.
Me too, because it's an interrupt.
It's private. It's super intrusive,
It's super intrusive, and it's also, I mean, practically speaking, I expect my inbox to be sort of persistent, long haul. I can go back and look at that later, and I really don't want to have to troll through my message app for that.
Exactly, and that's something most people do not touch on when they talk about text marketing. They talk about, it's instant, it's higher deliverability. Yeah, and you piss a lot of people off by doing it.
A lot of I'd agree. I'm also we Campaign Genius, technologically speaking, can deliver real-time content in text as well as email. And we've sort of poked at, should we talk with text marketing companies and say, you guys could actually be a lot more visual, but I don't think I've ever gotten a visual MMS message from a company ever.
No, I have never gotten that either. And honestly, if they start sending me funny GIFs and memes, I would have been a lot more accepting of getting those text messages.
Why? Interesting.
Because a lot of time when we look at marketing, it's like, what am I getting out of it by getting a message? If I get a good laugh because oh man, that's a silly picture, that makes me feel better than just getting swamped by a text message.
Okay.
It leaves me a good impression of the sender. And I'm like, okay, at least they put in some work. They're trying to be fun and personal approach. I'm not just a number in their database. Even though I know I am, as a marketing professional, I know I am, but emotionally, you're creating intimacy. Yeah. And intimacy is what, works.
You've also got a chance to deliver something closer to an experience with with visual tools, and it's not just data, so to speak. I've watched the rise of emoji communication, if that's a fair phrase, right?
Yeah.
As people started texting each other, and we all make this gesture with our thumbs when we talk about that. We started doing more and more emojis, and that character set has just exploded.
It's got larger and larger.
It has, and it means you pick the right emoji for your response to your friend on a back and forth thread, and you said something that would be very hard to type.
And see, this is the funny thing is because Asia actually has a separate set of emojis of their own. Those are completely made of symbols.
Yes.
So now that we are talking about plain text, but has the visual effect because they're your commas and punctuation, they make into little faces.
Oh,
that's
really?
That's the Asian emojis. And I use that sometimes in my messaging too, even if I'm talking to the US clientele. Because
really? Interesting.
Because of the Asian culture influence, how many people watch animes nowadays.
Yes.
And when I use those, sometimes people are like, what is that face? That looks so funny. And I got a response out of it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
And it's already part of your it's part of your vocabulary,
exactly.
right? Not in a
Yes.
linguistic sense, but in an expressive sense.
Yeah.
And you know where to find it on the keyboard, which matters too.
Oh, I have a secret keyboard for it.
That's good. That's actually pretty awesome. I find it vexing sometimes, though, I've worked with Unicode and emoji sets. Like, I know what it
Mhm.
looks like here. I don't know exactly what it looks like there because different device, different
Exactly.
rendering. So
Yeah.
you got to be a little bit careful about
Yeah.
that. Do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see text as a marketing channel expand and get used more and get richer, or are we all going to go no, 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 stay out of my, stay out of my messages?
It's probably going to go richer as the younger population take over larger portions
Yeah,
of the marketable audience. Because yeah, people like I'm young enough, but I grow up in China, so I think differently. But people my age here, they are used to like pop-up notifications and things
yeah,
like that, which
yeah,
are also, some of that still feels intrusive to me. I'm like, oh my God, just leave me alone. It's my phone. But I think there is a growing population that will be more and more comfortable and accepted when it comes
yeah.
to text marketing.
Huh?
But like you were saying, it is lacking a lot of things right now. It's still a young industry. We don't have visuals, we don't have interactivity, there is no experience there. So
Yeah,
for text marketing to grow,
yeah,
you need both the audience and the technology to
yeah.
support it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, it's interesting to hear you say that. It's refreshing and unusual that you recognize the impact of the interruption from your
Mhm.
phone, and you're willing to turn it off. Because I'd
Yep.
hazard a guess most people in your generational bracket never turn their phone off.
It's always on them.
It's always
Yep.
on. Yeah, yeah. There's a writer named Neil Postman who is I don't know if Postman's still living. He's wonderfully curmudgeonly about technology.
Mhm.
Saw a lot of the problems coming way before anybody else did. He wrote a book called "Amusing Ourselves to Death."
I need to read that just by the title. I already
Yeah,
know I like it. Yeah.
yeah. It's like yeah. Are we all
Mhm.
squirrels chasing dogs chasing squirrels and not getting a darn thing done as a result?
I think so. Well, I mean, I'm a traditional media artist, so that says enough that
Oh,
I'm on the old school thing.
you work in
Yeah.
physical media.
I work with pen and paper, watercolor, mixed media, cutting
You
and pasting.
okay? Wow,
Yeah,
that probably a refreshingly get your hands on it feel compared to all the digital
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, it's
Because most of
different.
your marketing practice is probably digital tools,
Yep.
digital media.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. We touched on it. I want to go back to it. So you've got a foot in two very different cultures, right?
Yes.
U.S. and China. What?
Mhm.
And you said it was quite a ride. What are some of the surprises initially adapting to U.S. culture when you got to school here?
Well, besides food portion,
A little too
because
big.
way too big.
Way too big. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Agreed.
was my biggest culture shock was ordering for one person. I'm like, oh my God, that's my meal for the next 3 days. Okay.
Well, you landed in Missouri, right? Kansas City.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Midwest, especially land of big food.
Oh, really?
Ridiculous. Oh, it's ridiculous.
That's funny. Yeah, but besides that, like Asian is what we call a high context culture. So you say one thing, you need to read an entire essay out of it
Hmm.
of what those people actually mean.
Hmm.
And coming over here, it's interesting because US is a much lower context culture. And a lot of time what people says is what they mean. Like you don't need to overanalyze it. If I'm in business and I'm networking, they're like, okay, let me know how I can help you. How we can help each other, and let's get on a call. In China, it could mean 20 different things. Here,
Really?
it's like, okay, let me send you an email follow up. Let's get something on the calendar. And
Okay.
that's something I definitely had to adapt to. Because at the beginning, I was like, did he really mean that? Are they really going to help me? Is that what they meant?
Yeah.
And after half a year, I'm like, okay, just forget about it. You want to call? Let's get on a call. So it dragged me down from this extremely high context to now I'm super low context. I'm like, I mean what I say, man. If you got a problem, you got to talk to me. So I'm like that now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's Wow, there's a lot. That's a
Mhm.
lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Because coming from the low context culture, your phrase of the
Hmm.
States, I never would have seen that. I never would have seen
Yeah.
it. Makes
Yeah.
sense though.
Yeah.
Huh.
Asian culture has all these like unspoken rules.
Hmm.
They think you should just by default know, like, oh, you don't need to say that out loud. Everyone understands that's what you mean.
Right. Okay.
That's a high context culture.
Yeah. And we're much
And
more explicit and
yeah,
surface.
and that's the main reason why, like, a lot of time a Western company try to market to the traditional Eastern market,
Hmm.
and they have a lot of troubles because one, they probably didn't do the research on the culture at all,
Hmm.
and two, it just different cultures talk differently.
Hmm.
And to create that effective communication, you need to learn how they talk, even if it's just within the same culture, because of age, demographics, education, the psychology profile,
Hmm.
there are lower and higher context within a low context culture as well. There are people who grew up in what you call the guest culture in the family, which is often your, mid-age and older female population here in the
Hmm.
Western world, and speaking to them sometimes need to be different because they grew up in a guest culture. There are things they don't feel comfortable about, but they'll never bring up to you. So how to evaluate based on the response you got from email, from their behavior, whether they opened, didn't click, they clicked, didn't move forward. Those are the little psychology games that goes
The,
down to email marketing.
the little signals. Well, I'm struck by
Yeah.
your high context, low context framework.
Mm-hmm.
Puts a different spin on what you were saying about laughing at poor translation, because it
Yep.
says that translation is not just a question of what's in the sentence or paragraph.
Yeah.
It's also what's the context for that sentence or paragraph.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A very famous example was when they translated the classic, there was a phrase, if you direct translate it, is even the best housewife cannot cook rice without, grain, the rice. But back then, when they were translating it, it didn't make sense because you guys didn't really eat rice back then.
Okay.
So the best translator swapped that phrase and turned it into not even the best housewife can make bread without flour. And
Right.
that's sold.
Right.
That's just a good example.
Right. Okay. Um, Wow. Yeah, that's a heck of a lot of richness to bring to what you're doing for
Mhm.
clients as well. Um, have do you have any business involvement with customers or markets in China?
Yes, we actually work with clients across the globe. Most
Mhm.
of them are more on the translation and language service side than
Okay.
marketing.
Okay.
But we do work, like, I work with a lot of video game companies. And
Okay.
when you come to video game context localization or marketing localization,
Yeah.
now we're going down a rabbit hole of some video games create fake culture. And how
Yes.
are you going to
Yes.
translate a fake culture to
Yes.
fit another real culture?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things going on in there. We did a little bit of content marketing for some Chinese firms, and that's the same issue. Was like you need to write differently, you
Hmm.
need to structure your sentences and paragraphs differently, and if you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole, SEO is completely different over there too
Unbelievable.
because it's a different language system and keywords are pulled differently.
Right, right. No,
Yep.
that actually makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
That'd be a
It's a
difficult
rabbit hole.
balancing.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, difficult balancing act. In video games is like strikes me as particular. There must be
Mhm.
some massive misfires in video games. Yes?
There used to be because I'm a pretty avid gamer
Yeah,
myself. Yeah,
yeah.
and we've made our own translations growing up because the official ones were just so crappy. So we made our own volunteer translation groups and
Yeah,
just started rigging games and translating it, things
right.
like that. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I mean you may not you may mean this more broadly than just language, but I'm thinking
Hmm.
in terms of games doing a lot of visual and symbol and
Yeah. Oh
style
yeah.
appropriation
Hmm.
that might end up reading just completely tone deaf
Oh,
somewhere else.
the worst game to ever translate are puzzle games,
Really?
especially spinning off traditional culture.
Oh wow.
So when they design the puzzles based off traditional culture, that's the worst type of job like game localizers want to get. Because
Okay.
that's what we're like, how are we even supposed to translate that?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So how would how does and I don't play the game myself, but I've seen enough
Mhm.
screenshots. How would Grand Theft Auto read to someone from China encountering it for the first time? Would they say, "What world am I in?"
Now you're touching an interesting topic because a lot of those games aren't even legal in certain countries, in certain parts
Interesting.
of Asia,
Yeah.
because of
Okay.
violence, because of
Yep.
censorship. So
Yep.
that's another loophole a lot of us working in marketing, working in content need to familiarize ourselves with
Oh,
are
well, yeah.
what are the trigger words for
Yeah.
that country's censorship process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need
Interesting.
to wiggle around it.
Yeah, or just say this is not gonna fly.
Sometimes it's just some not are not gonna fly.
Yeah,
Sadly.
yeah. Interesting. Uh, not easy and a lot of subjectivity, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. What a great background to you know
Right.
bring into your experience in the world.
Mhm.
Do you get have you I know we're in the middle of or coming to the end hopefully of a pandemic, but
Mhm.
do you travel back home, still have family in China?
All my families are back in China, but I haven't been back for like 7 years.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it's the heck of flight. It is 13-hour difference, so you want to talk about jet lag.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, you'd be
Yeah,
kind of hammered.
and there are reasons why I came to the States
Yeah,
because there are things I disagree with how, my government treated artists,
yeah.
treated the freedom of speech, and especially coming from a writing background. So there are reasons why I'm here in the
While you're
States.
there, yeah, and while you're here, yeah, I get it.
And the longer I'm here, it's
Yep.
probably harder for me to get back there and not cause trouble. So I figure it will. I mean, I feel more comfortable, honestly, here, definitely compared to back over in China, because I'm from the mainland. So
Hmm.
I'm from the strict actual central government, not from like Taiwan and Hong Kong.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
even during my writing days, we had a lot of problem with censorship. We had a lot of issue with what you're even
Yeah,
legally allowed to say or not to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
So yeah.
Huh. That's it's a tough balancing act.
Hmm.
You can't blanket say good, bad, right, wrong,
Yeah,
but at least you made the choice for yourself.
exactly. And so far, I'm pretty happy about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Hopefully you have not adapted to Midwest food portions though, because
No,
that's
still have
bad for
not.
you.
Yeah, I don't think I ever will. It just
Oh,
makes me dining out really cheap, because I have
yeah. Well, it's
leftovers.
a it's a little. I know this is not a marketing topic. It's a little appalling. I mean, I'm a fairly large guy, um, and I don't eat Midwest sized portions. Like, are you kidding me? Who wants to put that much in their body? You'll just explode.
Exactly. But I have adapted to the Midwest email lingo, so all those y'alls, whatever terms and slangs.
There you
I have
go.
learned all that.
Yeah, but wait, Kansas City, did you end up with a fondness for barbecue? That I have to know.
Sorta. I think I'll still go with my Asian barbecue most of the times.
Okay.
Yep. I
So
know. I'm biased on that.
KC is famous in the U.S. for barbecue. It's
Yeah, we definitely have some pretty good spots.
yeah, you definitely
Yeah.
have
But
some pretty.
I'm more of a backyard campfire griller.
There you go.
Mhm.
I'll take that one myself. Well, let's steer back to marketing, and maybe even steer back to email a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, where do you see email going in its competition for time and attention with
Yeah.
other forms?
Email will stay strong because it will remain one of our primary communication methods, especially in the B2B sector. That's
Hmm.
my opinion.
Hmm.
The issue is, I think email kind of took a pretty bad detour during its development with all these so-called templates and automations flooding. I am all about automation. I am 100% against blind, lazy automation without research.
Okay,
So I don't think personalization will remain that big of a deal. Like, oh, every message needs to be personalized. But I
interesting.
think smart segmentation and batch messages that are properly tailored to, resonate to your demographic, to your audience group you're talking to, that is going to develop even further, which will bring in a lot more technology support, maybe automations that are not allowed right now. Because like I use a very well developed CRM. So a lot of my emails are automated with tags and with templates, but those templates, I still have to go in there manually switch things out. So if it continues to develop, I would see that being filled in with either artificial intelligence or a different type of workflow. But yeah, email is going to remain strong. It's probably going to come back even stronger because the audience is starting to get exhausted with the over flooding influencers on every platform, with social media posting so much graphic. We're at an information overloading stage, and we are going back into choosing the highest value information and direct communication because we want to filter through all these things coming in. And email is where we filter things because it's our email, it's our inbox. It's not social media anymore.
Right. So, I own my inbox. Social media company X doesn't own my inbox, although Gmail makes that a bit of an interesting edge case. Your issue with templates is that, I think you said kind of a poor detour for a while, is that too formulaic, not enough thought in the actual content.
Yeah, because like I can tell when someone cold email me from a template, they probably didn't even look through. No.
Yeah.
Like the worst case I've got was they didn't even swap out the first name tag. It just had a tag there.
Yes.
But most people aren't that bad, but still they don't understand.
Oh, a lot of them are. I actually put the Dr. Matthew in the first name field in LinkedIn, partially deliberately, because now I can tell when it's a baloney email or baloney LinkedIn outreach because they don't even bother to read enough to go, his first name is Matthew.
Not Dr.
Matthew. You're like, bullshit, delete, gone, right? You can smell it.
See, and there are plenty of people doing that. I'm doing that too.
Yeah. It's like, if you're too lazy, if you're gonna try to pretend to be personal and not go to the length of identifying my name, disqualified.
Exactly.
Like, sorry.
Yeah, like for me, templates, all my emails are templated, Matthew. I care about what I'm sending out. So I put in the effort to make sure it's going out right. But I'm 100% pro template. Because I think template is a statistic method. It just groups certain audience who will respond psychologically the way you want them to this type of message. That's what templates are.
Yeah. They are. I think we're in for an interesting ride as AI starts to become not just a lab rat, but something useful. Because let me restate that just to provide a platform for debate. Email marketing is a fiction right out of the gate because you tend to pretend that this is one-to-one, and it's not, right? It's one to many.
Exactly.
But you want the tone and the impact and the reason we discuss things like personalization be like, oh, you made that just for me. No, you automated that and sent it to me. Let's call a spade a spade. As we start getting smarter tools to make the content more, even more tailored, are we going to hit a point where it really looks like you sat down and wrote that just for me?
I don't think so. I think that would be counterproductive. Because like what I was saying, I don't care if my favorite clothing brand address me by my name, as long as you're pushing the right content to me. Oh, that's the discount I could totally use. That's the stuff I buy. So it goes down to behavioral science. It goes back down to consumer psychology. That's the funny thing was we were both talking about AI technology, and that's an issue I see in marketing nowadays overall is we become overly dependent on the technology we have. How many people have actually read about consumer psychology? How many people actually educated them on those old school ways that actually are still the fundamentals of marketing?
Yeah. Yeah, the who, if we leave the who out of it, the rest of it is just tactics, is roughly
Hmm.
what my
Yeah,
previous guest had to say about that. That's a great example, right? Like give me the, I don't care if you use my first name because I know it's baloney.
yep,
But I do care if you're sending me things that are completely irrelevant to my interests,
yeah,
especially if I've bought enough stuff where you should know my interests.
exactly. And if you don't, that's like someone sending you a baloney template. You're like, okay, I'm not asking you to sit down with me one-on-one email, but at least send the right information to the right segment.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Or give me a way to tell you this and this, yes, that and that. No.
yeah,
Not that most people would actually bother. Um,
yeah.
what are your thoughts about the theoretical impending doom of third-party cookies and the effect on the digital advertising space?
Funny you should bring that up because I think not too long ago, Apple changed their in-app data collection rule,
Hmm.
and a lot of my colleagues were freaking out
Yeah,
because they can no longer collect those data on the back end.
yeah,
And that goes back to we never had a method to collect those data in the old days. Like when I was back in China doing offline events and advocacy, there were no big data cookie collection.
hmm,
Did those campaigns fly? Yes, they did. So if we're freaking out because of the doomsday of cookies and third-party data collection, I think a better question to ask ourselves is what are we lacking that are making us freak out because something that shouldn't have developed this much are finally being regulated.
good for you. Well put again. Yeah, yeah. Like sound practice isn't going to be affected by this shift, but
Yeah.
lazy sort of
Mhm.
let the browser chase him around with the ad. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to miss that, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, I had the same conversation with a colleague back in Kansas City too. Was like we were all saying this whole digital marketing industry has been so unregulated up till now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's destined to have a big earthquake and
yeah,
shake out people who are lazy and who are just slacking off.
yeah. I think Facebook is vulnerable.
For sure.
Which I'm fine with because
Yeah.
I think they're kind of overdue. Uh, they're overdue to get some barbed wire around the ring.
Facebook is overdue for a lot of things, if you
Yeah,
ask
yeah. I
me.
mean that just a personal opinion, which is why I never
Oh,
never
yeah.
used the damn thing. But structurally, they never
Yeah.
managed to get uh, direct relationship with me. There was I mean, people who are habitual users,
Yeah.
yes, but all of the sort of third-party apps, third-party
Mhm.
browsers, etc., as a feed
Yeah.
were too integral to their business. And you look at it just as a
Uh-huh.
sequence of events and go, well, if Apple and Google change this in the browser, you guys are going to get cut off.
Exactly.
And if you
Exactly.
didn't change that, too bad.
Yeah, you gotta stay relevant. And like when it comes back to market, why the reason I pay so much attention to email is because I think the email is the most effective way to nurture your inbound and outbound
Yeah,
leads.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when it comes to marketing, it's about relationship. So chase people with ads because you can spend as much as you want. And if you're not nurturing what's brought in by that ads, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
You're wasting your time and money on it.
Yeah, or eventually you're
Yeah.
going to lose me because you're bugging me too much.
Exactly. Stop stalking me, man.
Stop stalking me, man.
Right?
I like that. I like that. So, what next on the horizon? Where would you like to take Westerlund?
We are steadily growing. We are launching a initiative called the Starlight Initiative third quarter, which is my way of cleaning up for myself and my colleagues that we have good relationship with. It's a education focused program for small business owners who may not have enough budget to hire an agency like ourselves.
Okay.
But I don't want more victim to 29.99 guru courses because it comes back and hurts people like me.
Right.
So Starlight Initiative is designed for small business owners who wants to learn a little bit about marketing and do it themselves, and also marketers for those smaller organizations. So you're one person marketing departments.
Yeah.
And as a part of that, it also touches business development and fundamentals of running your own business. It has a little networking group that comes with it.
Mhm.
So for Westerlund, like the name came from a star cluster instead of a single star. I am super community focused.
Mhm.
I want to give that knowledge back because a lot of people don't understand. The more informed my prospects are, the quicker they will see value in what I do and the more likely they're going to sign me up.
Right.
So let's just be straight up blunt. I am a for-profit company, but I'm going to do the for-profits in as ethical and helpful way as I possibly can. So the goal for Westerlund is Starlight Initiative is a huge focus for me for at least the next 2 years. And outside of that, of course, let's keep growing to the point we're a 5-people team now, which is super awesome. Went from just me to 5 people now.
Nice.
And hopefully at some point, I'm not a big physical office person, but I would like to have some sort of administrative level person in, so I'm not managing everything.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So what all the colleagues you work with are virtual and potentially distant from you?
Well, most of them are still back in Kansas City.
Okay.
So those are, and I have a huge referral network too. That's how I've gotten around. But my employees and my contractors, they're 100% remote.
Wow.
So we took the Zapier route, 100% remote from the very beginning.
Yeah. Which is I've done that a long time, and I'm a fan, but it's not for everybody, and you definitely miss something.
Yeah, for sure.
You definitely. It's different, and Zoom fatigue is a very real thing. Well, that's exciting. The initiative is exciting. You'll have to put me on the list and keep me apprised of what you're doing, because
I'll put you on the partners list, because we are also looking for speakers and workshop sponsors, things like that. And you have an awesome podcast right in the marketing world. So
yeah. Well, cool. What a great wandering and fascinating conversation. I'm so glad you agreed to come on and be a guest, Xiao.
I'm so glad you sent me a LinkedIn message.
Cool. Well, I'll wrap it up. My guest for this episode has been Xiao Faria de Cunha, owner of Westerlund. That's at westerlund.co, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you're interested in what she said, check it out. I'm going to guess the Starlight Initiative will have its own home, digital home at some point on top of that. Xiao, real pleasure. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Matthew. I had a wonderful time with you as well.
We're out.